And the stakes are rising in New Jersey's tightly contested governor's race. Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli filed a defamation lawsuit, or said yesterday that he was going to do that against his opponent. We still haven't gotten confirmation. We will do that. He filed against, or was going to, against Mikie Sherrill following remarks that she made in their most recent debate. To help us analyze the legal and political implications and to understand where the race stands today, we welcome Micah Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. Good morning, Micah.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Good to have you on. Thank you.
Too.
And I'm sorry about the name going back and forth. You call me Ken Rosato,
listen,
Kenny, Teeny Rosato, whatever you want.
Talking ethnic history, my German, Danish family, large family, grandfathers, brothers and sisters, half of them said it one way, half of them said it the other. So I'm not in the practice of correcting anybody. So
there you go. Well, I appreciate it. I just want to make sure I get it right because I love you like a brother from another mother, and I don't want to have any disrespect going that way at all. So here's thank you. So Jack Ciattarelli, we had him on yesterday, and he said that as of yesterday, he was going to file the lawsuit. And I believe he also made that announcement on Fox, if I'm correct, after he came here. So we appreciate that he broke that news here. Haven't gotten word on whether that actually happened. We will check that out today. Either way, if it does take place, that's a big deal. So will Ciattarelli's lawsuit against Sherrill have any effect, you think, on the race itself?
Certainly not legally. Lawsuits are going to take time to work out. There'll be discovery, there'll be back and forth. This is not something that's going to play out in a courtroom before the next 3 weeks are up. Really, what I think the question has to be for the election is what kind of an impact does it have on Jack Ciattarelli supporters? What kind of an impact does it have on Mikie Sherrill supporters? And clearly Mikie Sherrill, when she made the comment in the debate, was returning fire. She was hitting back. And so she made the decision in that moment, or maybe ahead of that moment, that this was how to look like she was going to be tough, was to level this charge. And it may have fired up her supporters. It may have won the day as far as the headlines were concerned. But the question is, does this lawsuit now fire up Ciattarelli supporters? Does this say, we have had enough, this is too far, and now we're going to make sure we get out at the polls on election day? So that's really the kind of thing I'm gauging for any kind of perceptible difference. Does it fire up one side more than the other?
So then, Micah, do you think that Sherrill crossed the line with the debate remarks, or is it just fair political theater? Hey, you put yourself out there. You want to run for office, fair game.
Yeah, probably from a legal perspective, it's the latter. It's, look, it's hard to prove defamation if you're a public official. You have put yourself out there. Hyperbole is protected. But from a right and wrong, you can't say that somebody killed tens of thousands of people if they didn't have direct active involvement. We know what she was saying. We know that she was talking about him having a medical publishing company that downplayed the risk of opioids. That's a fair charge. You can say, if you think he profited while people were getting sick and people were dying, you can say those things. But to say killed, that implies a direct level of involvement that I don't think the facts bear out here.
Okay, and I think you nailed it when you said people know what was meant there, right? And it is hyperbole, and every politician in history, probably going back to the Roman days, has used hyperbole in order to run. So very clearly so. Well, now the polling is all over the place. It shows the governor's race tightening, certainly. And I think the one thing that everybody agrees upon is this is going to come down to a very, very, very tight two numbers. So what trends are you watching most closely, Micah?
Well, so I watch, and this is really admittedly not the most accurate forecast, but I watch the daily vote by mail returns. And I watch those knowing that Democrats are more likely to vote by mail than Republicans. But even knowing that, and again, I caution here, I mean, a lot of caveats, I want to see whether or not there are any weaknesses in the Democrats' returns. I want to see if Republicans are showing any strength in the returns. And so far, what we're seeing is Republicans are a little bit ahead of their game from 4 years ago, from the last governor's race. Democrats are also ahead of their game. And so what this works out to is, in the last election, there was a lead of about 85 or 90,000 votes among returned ballots by Democrats. We never know how people are voting at this point, but in terms of who has returned a ballot, now we're ahead of that pace. We're about at 110,000 ballots returned, and we'll see where we go today. So Democrats are a little bit ahead of their mark. Is that a dramatic difference? No. But does it show that maybe they're holding their own? That could very well be the case. And so that's a careful number that I'm paying attention to. I agree with you. The polls are not really helpful at this point, except to tell us that it's tight. We are probably talking about a couple of points in either direction. And so this is going to come down to who shows up at the polls, who turns out, who has the bigger election day. Here's another measure I'll look at, and we're not quite there yet, is the early in-person voting. If Republicans are charged up and they're ready to hit the ground running, we're going to see that in those early voting days, and we're going to have an indication that they are just swamping Democrats. If that doesn't happen, and it didn't happen in voting by mail, then they've got to make it all up on Election Day.
Gotcha. And that starts the Saturday, I believe, before. So it's the 25th?
Yep, that's
5th,
right.
yeah, and until November 2nd. And then if you don't do it by November 2nd, you have to show up November 4th and vote in
You
person.
got it.
So
That's right.
fascinating. And despite Ciattarelli's little bit of a surge, we also have a cash advantage on the Sherrill camp. How important is campaign funding, do you think, at this stage?
In the closing days, it's very important because it means that, so you have to remember, in New Jersey, we have a public financing system for governor. So they both agreed to a spending cap, at least on the campaign side of the money, maybe not on the outside money, the independent expenditure money that's being spent in support of them, but on the inside money, they are at the same, they started at the same, they have the same level, they have the same resources. But what the disparity that you're talking about means is that Sherrill has more of an advantage going into the closing days of the election. She has squirreled away more money for the closing message, and that can be decisive if he can't answer that back as effectively or with as much money. I saw an ad impact analysis that says that he's got about $3 million worth of ads going into the closing days, and Sherrill's got about $11 million. That could be a decisive advantage.
By the way, saw you on my old haunting grounds, Channel 7, doing your political analysis. And my dear friend there, Sade Badr-Noir, who's just the loveliest. It was great to watch. And I kept thinking, God, we got to get him back on. I'm so glad you're back
Thank
on
you.
with us,
It was a
too.
great time with them. Yeah.
They did a great job too. It was a fascinating debate, both debates. I love the idea that one was a town hall and one was a more standard debate because it afforded you an opportunity to see the candidates in different lights.
I
One was
agree.
the candidates talking to each other and one was the candidates talking to us. And it was really good to see them both ways. And now
That's
the
great.
debate you moderated with us on New Jersey, earlier this year, of course, whose comment do you think will have the greatest impact on this election?
Whose comment from that early debate? Let's see.
Throwing you a
You know,
curveball.
and it's so hard to even think back because so much has happened since then, right? Um, I think that Jack Ciattarelli really laid the foundation in that first debate that he was not going to raise the sales tax by 10%. I think that was a really important thing for him to do because Sherrill has made that a central charge of her campaign. Now, maybe it wasn't the last word because then we had a lieutenant governor debate where Jim Gannon sort of reopened the door on taxes, but Ciattarelli said definitively, I am not raising your sales tax by 10%. And I think that has changed the trajectory of at least that argument and that thread in that debate, which I think we're going to find is pretty decisive here. He has not been talking about taxes, she has, and that may make a huge difference because that's what's on voters' minds.
All right. Micah Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. I'm sure we'll tap your brain for more between now and Election Day in 2 weeks and 6 days. Thank you so much
Sounds
for
good.
coming on this morning, sir. You bet. Have a
Thanks for
great
having me.
day, Micah.
You too.
Thank you.